Most men who try no contact are doing it wrong, not because the principle is flawed, because they are using a genuine psychological process as a tactic. And the moment it becomes a tactic, it stops working. This is for the man who wants to understand what actually happens in a woman's emotional world during real silence, because what occurs on her side of that absence is specific, sequential, and almost nobody explains it clearly. Here is what no contact actually does, and why most men abandon it before it has the chance to do anything at all. The first phase of her experience is relief, and most men, if they knew this, would break contact immediately. Because relief feels like confirmation that she does not care. It is not. Relief is what happens when emotional pressure lifts. If the period before the silence involved pursuit, repeated messages, conversations about where things stood, attempts to recover the connection, she has been carrying the weight of your unresolved hoping. When the silence begins, that weight lifts. She exhales. Most men break contact here because they sense the relief and interpret it as indifference. They are reading the wrong signal. Relief is not the end of the process. It is the beginning of it. The man who understands this stays in the silence and lets the next phase arrive. The second phase is the one that matters. It is called recalibration, and it arrives quietly, usually in the second or third week, in the moments she is not expecting it. She is going about her life, and she notices your absence in a specific way, not as a thought exactly, as a texture. Something that was part of her daily experience is no longer there. The check-ins, the warmth, the person who was reliably present at the edge of her attention. And in the space where that used to be, something begins to shift. She starts to remember things she was not thinking about when you were available. The version of you she was drawn to before things became uncertain. The conversations that felt real. The moments where something genuine passed between you. Memory, without the friction of the present, tends toward the good, and she begins to feel the shape of what is missing more clearly than she felt it when it was there. This is the phase most men never reach because they broke contact during the relief phase and interpreted her exhale as her answer. There is a video on this channel that sits directly alongside this one. What women actually feel the moment a man stops needing her to come back, covers the moment this process completes and what she is experiencing when it does. I will link it at the end. The third phase is questioning. She starts to ask herself things she was not asking when you were in regular contact. Why did he stop? Is he okay? Did I misread how much this mattered to him? Is this actually over? These questions are significant. Not because they guarantee she will reach out, but because they represent a genuine shift in how she is thinking about the situation. She has moved from being the one with the power to being the one with the uncertainty. And uncertainty, in the context of someone she had feelings for, creates the kind of attention that availability never does. The fourth phase is the one where most men who have stayed in the silence long enough make their final mistake. She reaches out, it is warm, maybe tentative, and the man, flooded with relief, immediately returns to exactly the behavior that created the dynamic in the first place. The availability comes back, the pursuit reemerges, and everything she felt during the silence, the recalibration, the questioning, the renewed curiosity begins to reverse. Because the man she was becoming curious about has disappeared, and the one she was uncertain about has returned. The grounded response to her reaching out is not strategy. It is simply continuing to be the man the silence revealed. Warm, but unhurried. Genuinely glad to hear from her, not suspended by what it means or where it might lead. Responding from a place of settled self-possession rather than relief that the silence is over, because the silence was never the point. The silence was the container. What grew inside it was the point. And what grew inside it was a version of yourself that was not organized around her response. The moment you abandon that version, you abandon the thing she came back toward. Here is the honest truth about no contact that nobody says clearly. It is not a tool for getting her back. It is a period of genuine redirection that may or may not result in her returning, and that produces something valuable regardless of which way it goes. The man who uses the silence to actually rebuild his own life, his attention, his sense of direction, comes out of it fundamentally different, whether she reaches out or not. And that difference is exactly what makes the reaching out possible in the first place. The men who stop too soon are the ones who were using the silence to wait. The men who stay in it are the ones who stopped waiting and started living. And living, genuinely and without performance, is the only thing that produces the outcome no contact is falsely promised to guarantee. If this gave you clarity, this video is the natural next step. It goes into how a grounded man moves through letting go without losing himself in the process. It is on screen now. I will see you there.